Take this job and shove it.
You are listening to Jobcast Radio, and I am Mike Baumgartner, your Work-Life Survival Sage, the Chief Executive Officer of the Worklife Survival Center, and your host. If you've got a problem with your boss, if you've got a problem finding a job, it's tough out there. If you need help just getting your resume together, if something funky is going on at work, or you want to try and get away with something, but you're not sure the company's going to buy it, you may want to give me a shout. My number is 304-867-4142. Again, 304-867-4142. You can also shoot me an email, mike@jobcastradio.com. Feel free to visit my website, jobcastradio.com. You'll find me on Twitter. You'll find me on Facebook. All the things that you need to be able to survive this thing that we call work, these companies we work for, and just basically, just sometimes make it through the day. So when we're talking about this, and one of the things I haven't touched on in a while, and remember, we're right now, everybody's all crowing because we're at 8.9% unemployment, which means that 9 out of 100 people, basically, we're 1/10 of a point short of 9% unemployment. 1 out of 10 people are still without work, and they've been out of work for a very, very long time. In fact, the people who've been out of work have been out longer than any time in history. This isn't when, people are losing jobs and then, 4 or 6 months later they're finding a job. We got people who haven't found a job in a year or more. And that really makes a really big toll on you. It has to. I mean, think about that. I mean, if you're diligently looking for work and you're not just sort of scruffing off unemployment or just kind of floating around out there, if you've been looking for work for 5, 6, 8 months, every day, sending out resumes, talking to people, talking to whoever you can, if you're doing all the right things and you're still not finding a job, because you might be, look, there are places in this country that have astoundingly high unemployment rates. And it may be that your job just isn't there. And maybe you need to move. That's a different subject for another show. But all that rejection takes a tremendous toll on any person to be told, no, you're not qualified, you're overqualified, you're too old. Or even the more maddening things, you send out your resume, you talk to 1 or 2 people, and then poof, nothing, no sound. Companies are incredibly bad at saying no thank you to people who are in the process. Now, we have computers that, you send your resume and you don't get selected and they send out this little form letter. No, I'm sorry. No, we're not going to do that. But a lot of companies are really, really bad about, when you're down to the last 4 or 5 people, all of a sudden they just stop talking to you. Because they start focusing on the person they want to hire. Everybody else just ends up sitting at home wondering if the next day they're going to get a call. And sometimes you've got 2 or 3 jobs who are working that way. That kind of rejection, and look, that's what the word is. You're being rejected. And I could argue that it's not personal, but it is still rejection, takes a toll on you. And if you're not doing just sort of mental checks of what is this doing to you, then you should be. Especially, look, you should at least once a week be sitting down with friends or with your family as you're going through this process, as you're looking for a job, asking them, has my behavior changed? Am I being shorter? Am I being angrier? Am I talking negatively so much? Because what will begin to happen is all this rejection will lead to depression. And nobody wants to admit that they're depressed. Nobody wants to deal with that kind of a label or a tag. But that kind of getting into that state begins to affect your job search. Because as you get more rejection, you get a tad more desperate, which means the next interview that you have, you're either going to be angrier when you're talking because you've been rejected so many times, or you're going to be so desperate that you're going to begin to sound desperate. You're going to start answering questions with what you think the people need to hear to give you a job, as opposed to answering the question correctly. You get hypersensitive to the things that people will begin to say to you. You'll begin to get, honestly, angrier, mentally, maybe even physically violent, as people begin to tell you. So how do you get out of this? How do you dig yourself out of depression? How do you dig yourself out of this kind of funk that is going to begin to build as the weeks and weeks progress? Candidly, it is not easy. Many people would tell you to go and see a counselor, to go see somebody who can help you deal with this kind of emotional connection. And believe me, if your friends begin to tell you this is what you need, you should go seek out a professional. But if you're not doing any kind of a check-in with the people around you, you're not going to know that this is happening. You need to sit down with your spouse. You need to sit down even with your children and just say, look, has Daddy been sad? Is Daddy angrier? How is this affecting the family? You'll begin to notice that as money starts getting tighter, as you don't have income coming in, that kind of stress and tension begins to build in other members of your family as well. Your spouse, your children, they're going to feel what's happening, and they're going to get more and more fearful. There are a lot of marriages, a lot of relationships that end because of a job search and what it does to individuals as they go through this particular process. Also remember, when you got fired, it's the essential feeling of just death. You lose a job. When you lose a job, it's almost like you've lost part of yourself, like something in you died. So you have all of these things hitting you constantly. You lost your job. You're sad. You're depressed. You're trying to find a job. You're getting no after no after no after no. Money begins to shrink. You begin to wonder whether or not, you're a 35-year-old guy who's going to have to move in with mom, with the wife and the kids because you have no place to go. I get that. I understand that. So you need to get some mental health breaks in for you. You need to be around your family. You need to be talking with other professionals. As you are out of work longer and longer, you're going to begin to see that your skills are going to start getting rusty. Programmers will begin to forget, just how you code certain things, or you have to think about things a little bit longer. This also affects your interviewing, because if I ask you a question of how would you handle a particular problem dealing with, say on the HR side, the Family Medical Leave Act. If it's somebody who's just lost their job, they're going to spit it right out. I would do this, and this. If you've been out of work for 8 months or a year or longer, you may want to think that you may have to think that one through again because you haven't had an FMLA issue to deal with. That slows you down, which makes me think, maybe you don't know as much as you think you know on your job because you haven't refreshed anything. How do you deal with that? Well, one of the things that I would advise to you is start to either take classes, go to association meetings where people are talking about the work that you do so you can stay up to date with any information or changes that might be happening. Or you could also begin to kind of tutor people. Teach people what you know. It refreshes your own knowledgeable skills. Get with a church group, get with a social group, and offer people. For example, when I was out of work, when I had a problem finding a job, because HR people were the first to get, laid off when the economy turned around, when I had a hard time finding a job, I helped people with their resumes. It refreshed my knowledge on how to do that. I coached them on interviewing because it refreshed my knowledge on how to do those kinds of things. I helped people deal with basic problems with their job because they would come to me with their problems. And lo and behold, Jobcast Radio was born. That's what got me into all this, was so that in refreshing my own skills and knowledge, I found an avenue to keep my knowledge up and going. So when I went into an interview, I knew it off the top of my head. I was always checking in with my friends. And remember, I always tell you, you got to schedule some time during your job search. Get out, go to the movies, go have dinner with people. But you should be asking them, how am I doing? Am I moping around? Am I looking like Eeyore? Oh, sorry, I'm just going to die tomorrow. If I'm going that way, that's exactly what you're going to look like and what you're going to sound like in your interview or on a phone interview. If you're so discouraged when that recruiter calls, your brain is going to say, all right, I'm just going through the motions because I know you're not going to hire me. You got to get that out of your head. But you don't know that it's in your head unless other people tell you, because you can't see it in the mirror. I know this. I have been there. I understand it. I have seen it happen time and time again. I have friends of mine who have gotten it into their head that they're too old, they're too inexperienced, they're not capable of getting a job, that they just, something is wrong with them and they can't get a job. And the answer is yes, there is something wrong with you. You're depressed. You gotta pull yourself out of it, and you need family and friends to help you to do that. If you find yourself in that boat, give me a call, 304-867-4142. Again, 304-867-4142. Let's talk about it, because the goal is to get you a job. And when you get that job, to jump in and just have a great time doing it. But you're not going to have it happen if in the back of your mind you think you're not worth it, or the world is out to get you. We'll be back.
Take this job and shut it.